our show.
Well, super. Thank you, Ty, and thank you, Leon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so thrilled to have everyone on the line to take some time to go through Socialytics.
Excellent.
Couple things. So you can do hashtag Socialytics or hashtag Say It Social. I would love for you guys to follow me, Sandy_Carter on Twitter. I'll be trying to monitor that as I speak as well. And I also have a blog where I blog about different social topics, and in particular, a lot of clients who are doing social. So I'd love for you as well to subscribe to that blog as we go along. If we could go along to the next page, I wanted to just start out with a couple of factoids. If you're on this call, you're probably visionary and you know about social, but I didn't know if you knew that 66% of top performing companies today, now that's not all companies, but those are outperforming in the financial markets, 66% of them leverage social in their business processes, showcasing a correlation between using social and top business results. And something I thought was a big aha moment, over 80% of CEOs have a higher trust metric by using social when they openly communicate with that particular medium. So social today is exploding. And one of the things I wanted to cover on the next page was some of the trends we see in the future, not just today, but some of the trends we see coming in the future around social. Now, we talk a lot about convergence because if you're sitting there, you're probably thinking, well, social has a lot to do with mobile because 68% of social network users do so on a mobile device. I know I do. You also are probably thinking from a business perspective, social by itself is not as powerful as social combined with big data and analytics, analyzing the data. And you would be right. So these 5 trends encompass social, but also the use of some other technologies to even bring more and more power with them. So the 5 trends we see, first, and I did this in a David Letterman style. Ty, you would like this. I was in Japan trying to explain why I counted down. Difficult because I didn't know who David Letterman was. So we're going to go down these 5. So the first one is that the power is shifted around information. Before it was around who knew the most. Now it's who shares the most. Secondly, we're going to be talking about value creation, not on a segment, but on an individual. We'll then go into the value and really the essence now of corporations, which is innovation and how social can help drive that. Then we'll move on to social networks are the new production line, a very tweetable line, so I hope all of you tweet that, and I'll explain what that means. And then finally, for you guys personally, what does social mean to new leadership? So if you go with me to the next slide, let's do this little countdown, and I'll quickly go through these trends in the next 15 minutes. So the first one is really this shift of power. You know, is it around how much you know or how much you share? And I would tell you, you have to know things in order to share for sure, but the whole balance is now shifting to sharing information. As a corporation, when you think about that socially, going online, you know, Googling, going to a social network, asking a question, the big thing, though, is how do I know that finding that information, I'm actually finding an expert. I'm finding someone that I can trust. Great story. You know, at the end of the school year last year, my daughter came home with a homework assignment, and she was not asked to memorize data on a subject, but to go and find the answers online. But she has to validate that the answers she found were from an expert who could be trusted, a trusted source of information. And that's truly where we see a shift occurring, and again, having to use social to validate that expertise. So how do you do that? Let me show you one example on the next page. Happens to be an example from one of my clients. How do you use social to find an expert? Well, this is on a mobile device. Remember I said 68% of us use our mobile device to really nail that social networking. And you can see that in this particular expertise app, what happens is if you're a retailer, which this customer is, and they're trying to find an expert on lighting or outdoor furniture or sunglasses, the list of topics is actually crowdsourced, brought up by a social crowd. These are the hottest topics. When you click on a topic, you go to the next in the center little mobile picture, an expert. Now this expert has been pulled up by tagging, so social tagging, by ratings, much like you would in Amazon with a book, but here's your rating an expert, maybe certifications, so that you're leveraging social to find the expert, to identify the expert, to confirm and validate that you have an expert that you can trust. And then the next example right beside it is in that same little application, you're now contacting that expert so you can get help or assistance. So again, if I was in a retail store, wanted to know a lighting specialist, doesn't no good just to know who they are. I need to be able to get information from them. And you can see here the little app enables you to use social, use microblogging to reach them, or texting, but also some of the traditional forms of contact like email or a telephone call. So this first trend we're seeing, which is extremely powerful, is finding the right expert, knowing who the expert is, and being able to trust them all in the palm of your hand on a mobile device. And understanding that is becoming a top priority. Next week I'm going to see a major bank. CEO has 3 top priorities. One of those is sharing expertise and leveraging them. Okay, let's go on to trend number 4, counting down. Value will be created not for a market segment, but for not a demographic anymore, like I learned in school, but really for an individual. And I think this is pretty self-explanatory. It means that we have so much data and information now, we should be able to socially target the individual. Let me show you what I'm talking about on the next slide. So this is an iPad. So you can see I'm an iGirl here. And this iPad, what this enables me to do is, this is my corporate website. And I now can sense and see where this individual goes to get their information, to shop, to find out who else is recommending my product or my portfolio. So I can see hotspots, areas that will help me to optimize and to engage a person on an individual basis. Even doing things like customizing colors for an individual or customizing where I go for information can now be done not overall, but on an individual basis. Let me show you another example of ensuring these individual needs are met and giving you the ability to optimize and engage. This is one of my favorite examples. So remember, the trend is about now not going after just a demographic, but an individual. So this is a retailer in Asia, and what they're looking at here is how do I capture that market where people ask others before they buy something, right? So this is a retailer, and instead of people having to bring their friends into the store, on each hanger, which we call a social hanger, you can see there the number of people who have Facebook liked that particular jacket. But now that's really going after the demographic, which you can do. But you can also go up to the hanger, and you can put in your Facebook ID or Twitter ID, and then it will show you how many of your friends and your followers, the individuals, like that particular jacket. Phenomenal results from the store, being able to show others how many people like a particular set of clothing or like a particular set of data. Now, here, this is all about insight, community insight, helping you to use these analytics to anticipate the buy, not just to look in your rearview mirror, and helping to provide something socially that gives you the conviction to act. So that's our 4th trend. Let's go to the next one. Our next one is number 3, and this one I think is really powerful. In fact, I just used this with my team today and yesterday, which is this is all about innovation. How do you come up with that next new big idea? IBM CEO study showed that CEOs around the world value first and foremost in skills in their employees the ability to think outside the box, to come up with a next new thing. However, a lot of companies today, those top performers we talked about right up front, they're leveraging this as part of their corporate culture and using social technology and analytics, socialytics, if you would, to have predictive capability and ideation that helps assist them in that innovation. Let me just show you one example, and lots, but let me show you one example on the next page. This is from IBM. So this is using an ideation area. We call it a jam. We were jamming on our client experience. What will make us have the best and the most essential client experience in the world? Now, Ideation is used here to innovate. So we are taking employees' ideas, partners' ideas, and we're sorting them. We're categorizing them. So we're using analytics, socialytics, if you would, to take the 24,000 threads and the 127,000 posts on what we should do and to leverage that all together. Now, over the 3 days that we did this jam, we had about 200 novels worth of ideas given to us by clients, by partners, by IBMers. So now comes a really interesting part. We need to apply predictive capability. Is this something that a client sees today that they want, but tomorrow they're not going to like it? With the power of ideation to come up with the top ideas that we want to invest in to innovate in our particular space. And the same is being used with financial services companies to create new financial offerings. In fact, I was just with a Vietnamese telecommunication company that used this whole concept of ideation and predictive capability of social to come up with their next small business offering that's really already penetrated the market in Vietnam. Okay, let's go on to number 2. Social networks are the new production line. And I told you that this is a very tweetable line, and it's very powerful if you stop and think about it. Social networks are the new production line. Think about what the production line did in the manufacturing space. It changed the game. If you didn't have a manufacturing line, you're really out of business, right? We believe very firmly the same thing. Social networks are the new production line. And it's not just that social is part of marketing. Marketing was kind of the innovator of social, if you would. But social is a production line because now it's embedded in all of your business processes. So that could be customer service, changing the way you do a call center, marketing, which we talked about a fair amount, but the segment of one, the way you recruit. I was just at a session at Wharton. Top companies today, they all use social to help them recruit. Social reputation will become more and more important. Product development, how do you crowdsource that we talked about, that next new innovative product. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you one from IBM because I think the numbers are so powerful and so impactful. We at IBM do drink our own champagne. We believe in social and we use social. So we have a site called DeveloperWorks. We obviously are a technology company. And so as we develop technology, we want developers, other people to contribute their ideas and to ask questions. We, instead of having an in-person call center where those people call in now, we actually have this community, a social community that now answers questions. Using Twitter, using our own IBM connections, we've really converted the old call center, the old online self-service, into an active, engaging community that enables our clients and developers, partners, to get right information more fast. Now, if you look at the bottom, this is actually a public piece of data. We track this. Our community saves about $100 million a year, and this is an ongoing little ticker tape, if you would, for the year-to-date savings for 2013 for this year. Pretty amazing, embedding social into a customer service process. Okay, let's go on to the last one. I want to make sure I keep us on time here, or Leanne will be mad at me. So this is around results for leadership, really looking at what does a social leader look like, feel like, smell like? How do they act? What are they? You know, one of my favorite sayings is that culture eats strategy for lunch. And truly around social, it's so different. When you're getting ideas from others, it's not just your own ideas. When you're collaborating together, the way you work is differently, and therefore leadership needs to change as well. So we've listed out the top 10 attributes of a social leader, someone who is transparent, collaborative, someone who tries new tools, who's willing to listen to others. And we believe that these attributes make a huge difference in the way that a company is done. Now, on the next page, one of the things that we've laid out is a little survey, how leaders can help drive this culture. You know, as I said, culture eats strategy for lunch. You can have a great social strategy, but if you don't have the right culture to accept the ideas, you're going to be left behind. So this is just a sample of that study where you can go through and evaluate your company. Are you ready for social? Do you have open communications or guarded? Do you learn from your mistakes? Do you move quickly? And part of this is some of these cultural things are part of your heritage you won't want to change. Therefore, you should select how you use social based on that culture. Some you may want to change, and you might want to use social to help you. One of the most powerful quotes that I've heard from one of my clients, Clarissa Feltz at Lowe's, is she said, social didn't transform our culture. Social revealed our culture. Because when you're using social externally in customer service, it's going to really highlight with a megaphone those great things that you do, but you're also going to see a magnifying glass come on your gaps and your holes. So social doesn't transform the culture. Social reveals the culture. And you've got to be that kind of corporation that will really make sure you're addressing those concerns and make sure you're addressing those gaps in order to move forward. On the next page, our last page of content, leaders really set a strategy here. They deal with their culture first, because culture eats strategy for lunch, but they also set the strategy. We at IBM have laid out a methodology for becoming a social business, one that not just embeds social into marketing with social media, but embeds it into that customer service process, recruiting process, marketing process. And so we've laid out, and you can see we start out with goals and culture. We look at how your customers trust you, how your employees trust you. We look at how you engage today, and do you have an exceptional experience? What is that digital experience with you like and feel? We look at your business processes to see where social can help you the most. We help you design a risk management plan. I will tell you that there is obviously risk. You can manage it, but it's more risky not to be in social than to leverage social. And then, of course, that analytics, right? This whole thing, socialytics, to get you really going and to leverage the data that you do have out there. If you go with me to the next page, just to close, we believe very strongly in this convergence, and we believe very strongly that teams that leverage social will be more competitive. They'll be like those 66% I started this out with. Again, I'd love for you to subscribe to my blog and follow me on Twitter, continue this conversation as we're going to do right now. So back to you, Ty and Leon.
Okay, I think we're going to get some questions from our audience, Sandy. That was fantastic. And we're going to get Kevin, our COO, on the line and take it away from there. So hopefully you're ready, Sandy, for some questions.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right.
Hey, Sandy, fantastic. We do have a couple of interesting questions for you. The first question is, how accurate is predictive analytics?
Well, you know, it depends upon how you ferret the data, but I would say from the clients that I've seen so far, if they use accurate data, and the reason I say this is that some people will doctor up what they're seeing, right? They change things. This goes back to that cultural piece. But if you use the data and you apply your own knowledge of the business, it's fairly accurate. We've got lots of examples where clients have looked at data and it's really provided them insight that they didn't have before. I'll give you an example. One energy drink, sports drink, they were doing all their marketing online around athletes who they thought would drink these energy drinks. Predictive capability said that the market was shifting over to gamers. Gaming was gaining, popularity, and that more gamers were going to energy drinks to stay awake all night so they could play their games. And sure enough, they switched their marketing, something that for them was counterintuitive, and accelerated the sales of their energy drinks into this new market that was predicted by the Socialytics. I'll give you a couple other examples if you want, or does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's a great example, and that's very helpful. So another question is, what's the difference between, you mentioned finding experts. Could you talk to us a little bit about the difference between finding an expert and influencer scoring, such as what you would find in like Clout or Cred?
Yeah, so I think they're very similar, and I think there's many different metrics out there looking at expertise today. There's the engagement database that Altimeter Group's doing. There's Clout. There's a new one called Higgy. I don't know if you guys have seen Higgy, company out of Chicago, and they not only look at your social influence, but they also look at lifestyle as well and combine it all together. I think all of these metrics are kind of converging on this trend, which is who is the most influential and who can you trust. What we've done here is to try to put it into a business setting. So how would you use that, right? You go out to Clout today and you find someone who has influence, and then what do you do? And that's why this little application I showed you, this little app, it really places it into an ROI, return on investment situation. You leverage crowdsourcing to come up with topics that maybe your customers or your employees are interested in. And then your expert is selected on a similar metric base like a Higgy, like a Cloud, like a engagement database, using tagging and expertise and votes and that sort of thing to come up with a list of experts. In a business setting, though, being able to see, as a company, you have enough experts in a particular area, right? I was just looking at a report the other day. The biggest gap in experts across the country right now is in mobile. So being able to identify at my company, I have enough skill in mobile or I don't, and using an application like this to identify that gap, I think gives a lot of insight and strong return on investment to a company. And then be able to connect the expert. So if you went to Cloud or Engagement Database or any of these, you find the expert, but, what are the chances that, Ty, who's really important, who knows a lot about social, is going to call you back or is going to, you know how to reach him. And so this little application enables your clients to get in touch with the expert, which is extremely valuable in the business equation. I will tell you, from a business perspective, from the latest McKinsey report on embedding social in, this little application right here of just discovering an expert and connecting with them can drive up to 20 to 25% additional productivity from your own teams, as well as increase customer sat. So addressing another big issue with social that companies are always asking about, which is, show me the money, honey, show me the money here. This enables you to take that methodology and really monetize it in a business setting. That make sense?
Totally does, and that's awesome. And I think that leads into our next question about culture. How do you love the quote about culture eating social strategy for lunch? If you have identified that your organization, through your early initiatives with social, has a cultural issue, how do you address that? What would be your tips or your advice?
Great question. So I would say there's a couple of ways you would approach it. First, if you identified a cultural gap and you say, you know what, that's just the way we work, that's the way what we do, and we don't want to change that, I would advise certain projects where social would be okay in that cultural setting, right, if it was one thing, two things. Or in many organizations that we go in, they say, we don't want to continue in this vein because millennials are coming in. The workforce is changing, right? Work is changing.
Yep.
So we need to change our culture. And in many cases, we'll leverage social to help facilitate the change in culture. So we may actually start a project that makes people uncomfortable. For instance, one company I was working with, they did not like to take ideas from the outside. So we started with an ideation area where ideas were coming in, and the CEO herself was very much focused on those ideas that really started that cultural change in the organization. So I think it depends upon the company and what level of support you have, and do you want to change your culture or stay the way you are? Depending upon that, you'd make your recommendation about how to proceed forward.
Those were two great approaches. We appreciate those very much. And Ty, those are all the questions that we have for now.
Okay, I do have one I just noticed real quick, Sandy. And it kind of relates back to the culture question as well, and that is, what is it going to take to get more CEOs on social? And this comes from, I think, Nicole Ames on our presentation today. A recent study said that the C-level still lags in this area, and I do agree with that. So what are your thoughts, Sandy?
Yeah, in fact, today I just saw CEO.com publish a study. 32% of CEOs have an account on social. and less than half of them use it. So it's very low today. Couple things that I'm seeing happening. CEOs for the first time see the power of social. Our own IBM CEO study showed that 73% of CEOs now recognize the power of social, compared to 2 years ago where 1% said social had any impact on their business. So we're starting to see a change in their attitude. Now, a lot of times CEOs don't get it because they don't use the technology. They don't use the tools. And so a lot of the ways that we've helped our customers is to do reverse mentoring. Have some of your millennials, some of your digital immigrants, digital natives come in and do mentoring, maybe with a small project with a CEO, so he or she can see the power and the benefit of it. Or another approach that we've used here with some of our customers is, a lot of times CEOs aren't going to change the way they've worked. They've worked that way for 30 years. And so maybe what you do is you blend the two work styles. There are tools out there. IBM has one where you can email, but you hit a button and it takes your email and it blogs it for you. Or even dictates. You can dictate and then have it blog for you. Or there are tools that we have that will help you, break it up into tweets. So I think there are lots of ways to ease CEOs into this. It does take time, though, and I do think it's a thing that will change over time.
Yeah, I think we've been following a lot of your research, Sandy, and with IBM, and it's definitely on the move and on the rise. But we appreciate your feedback on that and those tips too. So, well, I think. Well, okay, one more question, Sandy, and that is, what was that app again, or the actual, even the name? The other question was that we're seeing a lot is the other tool that you mentioned for credibility.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, the app that we have here around expertise, this particular app is an IBM app, and it's called Expertise Locator. Expertise Locator. It's IBM Expertise Locator. You can tweet me, and I can give you more information about it. It's extremely cool. We at IBM use it, as well as many other companies. And then the other one, are you talking about the little, which other app were you looking for?
I think some were asking about what was the name of that, like Cred or Clout? What was?
Oh, well, there's so embedded inside of the IBM Expertise Locator is an algorithm that helps you to calculate someone's influence. That's embedded into the IBM Expertise Locator. There are public tools available, like Clout, K-L-O-U-T. There's Cred, as you know. There's also Higi, H-I-G-I. It's quite cool. I actually found it at South by Southwest, which is one of my favorite conferences to go to. And it combines, it's really cool. It combines not only your virtual world experiences, but it also looks at things like, do you bike ride with others? Do you do external sports? It tracks restaurant meetings. So it's really more inclusive of not just the virtual world, but the entire influential sphere. I don't know how they're going to do. I'm not endorsing them. They're just a really cool little company, a little app that I found at South by Southwest.
Well, that's fantastic. Another great tool tip there, Sandy. Well, that's going to bring our show today to an end. And Sandy, on behalf of Say It Social, we really do appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insights, because we do look to you as a definite thought leader in this industry. So if you don't know who Sandy is, you see her blog there, her Twitter handle, and her book. Definitely advise you to get a hold of that book and follow her. So again, Sandy, thank you so much in your travels. We look forward to seeing you at South by Southwest and your future events too.
Great. Thank you guys for the honor of being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your thought leadership.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone too for attending. This is probably our most successful show to date with Sandy here. She is the IBM General Manager and Social Business Evangelist there at IBM. So definitely give her a follow. And next month we have slated with us from DuPont is Heather Reed, and she'll be discussing some topics around content management. So we'll give you more details about that. But again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope you have a great week, and we'll see you on our next broadcast.